everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you guys for joining me this week. I'm really excited to see what the runes have to say for the week ahead. And of course, before we get into it, a little bit about the astrological stuff that's going on this week. So I hope you guys had a wonderful full moon in Pisces this past weekend, and also that you survived the Mercury Retrograde in Libra that had just begun. And I know a lot of people talk about these retrogrades as if it's like really intense. It doesn't have to be. A retrograde just means an opportunity for us to reevaluate, to reimagine, to reinvent ourselves, especially within the purview of that particular planet. So with it being in Mercury, it's a lot about our relationship to communication in regards to our relationships, particularly, especially one-on-one relationships, with Mercury being in Libra. Libra being ruled by Venus, and Venus having a wonderful desire for deeper partnership and connection and harmonious relationships. So also see where certain things in your life may be out of balance, because that's going to be highlighted for the coming weeks ahead. Now, I already recorded this video 2 or 3 days ago with the intent of posting it on Wednesday. Now, the audio file was corrupted, and so I had to redo it. And so here I am today, and I'm excited to see what they have to say. I'm going to allow the runes to speak on what they want to speak on. I'm not going to go over what I had already spoken on in that previous video. It was lost for a reason, let's put it that way. And I like to see it in respect to the Mercury retrograde, right? Certain things we lose for a reason, or certain things we have to allow to slip from our grasp for a reason, right? We don't always have to hold on so tightly to things that we thought would last forever, or we had hoped would last forever. Don't know why that's coming up. So perhaps themes about loss, or themes about release, themes about allowing for avenues of expression or connection to ourselves and others in ways that allow for things to pass as they need to. It's kind of like take your time this week. It feels like taking your time. It feels like being aware of where you stand, of the emotions that you have in regards to whatever particular situation you may be going through, and standing firm in what your intuition is telling you. Because sometimes, especially with Mars and Venus going into a square today, and that's going to be lasting for a week or two, maybe a little bit longer. I didn't check so deeply into it, but I did want to briefly touch upon that. The square energy between Mars and Venus being a little bit of tension, or a little bit of grit when it comes to our relationship with others, our relationship to love, and being more cognizant of our boundaries and our needs. So, let's see what the runes have to say. Okay, so I wanted to briefly mention a emphasis on beginnings. There are new things beginning in your life that will bring a lot of abundance and joy. Perhaps you recently had an idea for a new project, or perhaps your intuition has really been nudging you towards a particular class or a group event, or perhaps you may be challenging yourself to embrace speaking up more. There you go. Something with throat chakra, speaking on your boundaries, on your needs, utilizing your sacred no. There's a lot to do about new beginnings, and how those new beginnings begin often from a space of where we create our boundaries, where we use, as I mentioned before, the sacred no. Saying like, nope, this is the extent of what I want, this is actually what I want to experience, and then watch the universe bring it into fruition for you. So funnily enough, the runes that came out 2 or 3 days ago have come out here today, but there seems to be a little bit more emphasis on other runes that have also come out. So 2 of the runes that came out together a couple days ago when I first did this reading for you guys was Kenos, which is the rune of the torch, and we have Haglas, which is the rune of the storm. So Kenos here kind of fell like this, and I don't know why, but because I know this is not the case. I know the greater than sign does not look like that, but for some reason when I saw this, it felt like greater than, like moving greater to greater heights, to greater experiences, moving upward, right? It looks like it's pointing upward, perhaps going up a mountain as well. There may be a need for going into nature. Some of you may be desiring to go for walks. I think that's going to be really beneficial for you. If you do live near nature outside of a city, like for example, here in New York City, it's pretty hard to find nature sometimes, especially for those who live in Manhattan. It's the city center. If you're feeling the call to go to the woods, I think that would be really beneficial for you. But going back to the runes, Kenos is the rune of the torch. It is our inner fire. It is our passion. We're being asked this week to walk further into the things that may be scary for us, that going past our own limitations on ourselves. We often, without really meaning to, place limits on our creative expression. We place limits on what we allow ourselves to say. We place limits on the kind of relationships that we can have, right? But this week it feels like our internal compass has been alight. And with Haglas all around us, Haglas is the energy of the storm, which normally asks us to turn inward. Because whenever a storm is going on outside, sometimes it's better to be indoors, right? And that indoor energy going inside to find shelter within your own heart, it feels like cultivating your inner guidance, cultivating your relationship to your intuition, and allowing that to be the source of your strength this week. Let your intuition guide you, especially when it comes to communication, because I feel for some of us, we may be having difficult convos, or there may be certain situations when it comes to work-related events. Perhaps you have a boss meeting coming up that you have to speak with them, or perhaps there's a presentation coming up that you have to give, and it feels like following your intuition is going to be really helpful. Following your passion, letting your passion shine through in the things that you do, even though a lot of things may be going around you, because Haglas, being the rune of the storm, can also indicate environments that there's a lot of movement, a lot of hazards, or perhaps feelings of ungroundedness, right? So it just may be very busy around you recently. So the runes are asking you to find your center, find that inner strength to connect to those passions. And I see some really interesting things too, because moving outward, we have Wunyo here. Wunyo kind of fell on its side, but I'm going to take it upright. Wunyo is the rune of joy. So as we connect to these deeper passions, as we allow for that center to be our guiding force this week, even through difficult conversations, or even through our own releasing of the narratives or the limitations that we place upon ourselves, is going to unveil the route to joy. It's going to unveil the path to a different kind of experience. And you might be surprised. I feel like there's going to be a lot of surprising experiences in the coming few days. And they may be small surprises, they may be large surprises, but whatever they may be, allow them to come and offer their joy to you. It feels like refraining from judging something before you see it come to fruition. And then I see later in the week, because we do have some interesting transits coming up later, especially with the moon. The moon is going to be ending up in Leo by the time that I will be making the new video for next week. So around Tuesday/Wednesday of next week, the moon will have already headed into Leo. And so there's going to be a greater sense of balance, especially a nice refreshing energy, in contrast to what we may have felt over the past full moon energy in Pisces, which was very watery, very emotional, and brought a lot of reflection to our life, right? So what I'm seeing here is we have Inguas, which is the rune of grounding. We also have Lagus that fell on its side. Now, what it feels to me to see Lagus and Inguas together like this, Lagus especially being on its side, I would suggest really taking the time to ground yourself, to do breathing practices, to journal more, to allow yourself more pockets of time for yourself, to feel more stable within your inner life. Because if not, there may be an opportunity for burnout, or there may be an opportunity for feeling more anxious or depressed, or not feeling as up to speed, right? So really be gentle with yourself towards the end of this weekend. I'm feeling towards Sunday/Monday, because sometimes these joyful experiences can bring us into a space of like, we're not quite ready for them, or perhaps they may be a little bit overwhelming. So that can lead to this feeling of feeling down within ourselves. So give yourself that time for restoration or restorative practices. Then I see towards the beginning/middle of next week, I really love to see these two runes together, because we have Sowilo, which is the rune of the sun, and we have Othala, which is the rune of spiritual inheritance, as I like to say. So even though there's a lot going on this week, even though it feels like there's a lot, especially of an internal reflection of our outer environment. So if your outer environment feels a little harried or a little stressful, we may be feeling that on the inside. So even though there may be that reflection between our inner and outer environment, I'm seeing here towards the beginning and middle of next week, the end of this week, there's going to be greater joy, greater connection. We're going to find ourselves in a space of deeper commitment to our spiritual truth, deeper commitment to our spiritual path, deeper commitment to our own internal guidance that we have been cultivating with this Kenos. So to wrap it up, it feels like there are some new things beginning, new things at work. And I see here an opportunity for joy. Now, of course, take your time to recover, to rest, to make space for yourself as you tap more deeply into the passions that will be guiding you for the next week. Okay? So that's what the runes have to say for this week ahead. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it resonated for you. And of course, like and subscribe to this video. Well, like and subscribe. You know the drill. So thank you guys for joining, and I look forward to seeing you guys next week here on the channel. All right? Bye, everyone.